As the first military interregnum was coming to an end, ban on political activities was lifted by the Murtala Obasanjo government in 1978. Alhaji Shehu Usman Aliyu Shagari, along with other old political colleagues, responded. Formation of political parties came underway, and from the national movement to the birth of the National Party of Nigeria, NPN, the party which Shagari was a founding member, the journey to the Second Republic began with 5 registered political parties in the context. At the turn of events, Alhaji Shehu Shagari became the presidential flag bearer of the NPN. Though that was not what he had bargained for, his ambition was to be a senator.
I've been in government for many years, and I've seen things happen. I have been close to people in power right from the beginning, right from independence. Sardauna of Sokoto, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, and General Yakubu Gowon. Each one of them I was very close to, and I knew how they dedicated their lives towards serving this country. And I know they were very good people. But as they continue in their very difficult assignment, they came to a situation when people around them, not all of them, some people around them tried to build walls between them and other Nigerians, or between them and the realities of life in Nigeria. And they heaped praises on them. They made them demigods until they came unconsciously to believe in what these flatterers said. They misled each and every one of them. And I know that I'm not as strong as any one of them. Whatever happens to them could happen to me. And that was what I feared.
But when the party overruled, Shagari had to succumb, though there were other contenders for the party's presidential ticket.
He and I contested for nomination in our party. And of course, the leaders of the party pleaded with me to concede to him, which I did. Not only did I concede to him, but I also campaigned for him. I always believe in one thing: anybody that has an edge over me, age-wise, qualification-wise, or otherwise, I would give him that respect. Shagari is a gentleman, and he is calm, cool, calculated, sensible, and so on. I should concede to him and work for him, work for the party, work for Nigeria.
The first choice made by the convention was to produce 3 names. And the names came out like this, in this order. Alhaji Shehu Shagari had a very substantial majority, followed by Emerson in Kano, Alhaji Maitama Sule, and I came third. Maitama Sule from Kano and I decided to consult, and we felt that it would be strange if somebody emerged at number 1 in Kaduna and emerges at number 1 in Lagos is replaced by any other person. So we decided to withdraw as candidates and to give our support to Shehu Shagari.
3 candidates. There was no absolute result, no winner. But in the evening, we were able to settle it, that Shehu Shagari, who scored the highest, it was agreed that he should become the presidential candidate. And I must confess to you from that day, he assumed that personality of being the presidential candidate.
Yes.
I was a member of his presidential campaign team. We went around the whole country in his usual dignified, inoffensive way. Was highly admired by everybody.
At the end, the party's foresight worked. The MPN emerged victorious at the federal elections, and what that country boy of Shagari, Shehu, was destined to be, the leader of his people, came to light. And on October 1st, 1979, Alhaji Shehu Usman Aliyu Shagari was sworn in as the first executive president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Alhaji Shehu Shagari, stepping into the high office of executive president for the first time in the history of this country, simply dressed and...
Indeed, as young ministers, I remember very well what the late Prime Minister once told me. The late Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa said he was getting tired and he wanted to retire at his farm. I said, "Sir, you are being unfair to us. Who will take over from you?" He said, "Either you or Shagari, given the chance, can do it." And later at a Commonwealth conference in London, the late Prime Minister, I think, repeated the same thing about Shagari. He saw him as a potential leader, even at that time. Now, throughout my stay with Shagari, since our days as students, he was calm, cool, calculated. He was a gentleman.
How did the man himself feel when he became president?
Great honor done to me by my people. I believe in the presidential system because it was the only system in which Nigeria can have a really one accepted leader who was chosen by all the people, irrespective of their region or their origin or their language or religion. And this is what I fought for. So it was a triumph when, in the end, this was accepted, and it fell on me, who has always preached this idea. So I regard it as a challenge. So the thing you have preached, you have now got in your hands. So the ball is in your court. Make it work. So I was really very happy. And I regard it as a challenge, and I was prepared, dedicated to this job with all my heart.
Democracy, which he so desired throughout his political career, was now installed in Nigeria's Second Republic, with him at the helm. How did he pursue governance? As he said with all his heart, what is that one fundamental of democracy he saw as the primary goal in Nigeria's heterogeneous setting?
Major achievement is to get all our people united for a common cause, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of language or religion. That was what we were trying to build up, and we were succeeding when we were interrupted. As I said, if we were left to go on through that process, Nigeria would have been more united, more solid, and more determined than it is today.
Chief John Nwodo, former Minister of Information, was Special Assistant on Information and later special duties to President Shehu Shagari in the Second Republic.
He appealed to me as a statesman, and he had this affinity for details. He was a good boardroom man, and he had a way of synthesizing a compromise in every discussion. And he struck me as a leader for the moment. You know, every moment in a nation's history characterizes the kind of leader that the nation would like. At that time, Nigeria needed a leader who would be a melting point of the various political opinions and a conciliator of some sort, and one who would embody stability and had the temperament for finding a resolution of all the various views of the country in his personality. And I saw Shehu Shagari as that kind of person. And I'm sure that history will bear me out that this was one president who ran a democracy in which the system worked.
Dr. Joseph Wires, President of the Senate, Second Republic.
He's one Nigeria that I know is totally detribalized. With his vision and wisdom, he's been able to bring all Nigerians together to think as one nation. This is one man I know. Think and practice of one Nigeria, one nation.
What was the strategy that made the system work?
Late
Dr. Umar Dikko, Minister of Transport, Second Republic.
We had 4 solid, tough political parties on our heels. In addition to that, we had a very violent press, right? We did not have a single newspaper that you could say clearly was for MPN. Now, in spite of all this, we moved on. Not only we moved on, and we moved Nigeria forward. People were happy. People were very happy indeed. Politics of honor, not politics of naira. And everybody had something to look forward to. Everybody. We made sure that we were fair. Even in those states that we did not win, we did not penalize them. We gave them positions, very big positions indeed. And that's all. And nobody was saying that Alhaji Shagari was pro-Hausa and not pro-Yoruba, or he was pro-Igbo and not pro-that. There was no question of that. Shagari was fair. We made sure that it was a fair play. In fact, I can tell you, we sent letters, the president sent letters to the leaders of all the political parties and invited them to send their best brains so they could run Nigeria together.
Late Dr. Chuba Ukadibo, former President of the Senate, who was special advisor to President Shehu Shagari, once commented on his former boss.
Then I asked him, why did you appoint me a political advisor at my age? I was young, I'm younger than you, how can I be, you know? He said, the majority of Nigerians are of your age and under. I want to know what they think and how they react. See that? Now, so I could tell him, because the governors, the members of the Senate, the members of the National Assembly, state assemblies, party functionaries, were my age base, slightly older or slightly younger. So we could relate to them directly.
Shagari has been a very great man. And he's a person who understands politics and who understands the parties. He doesn't say because he's a president, he can do what he likes. I can remember how he consults the body, the political body at that point in time. And we more or less give him directives. Of course, he will contribute, but whatever we decide, in the interest of the country, he's always ready to accept. And he's he's a man who is very much occupied. He loves the country. He works within his efforts, all that he can do to make the country happy. He keeps all the rules of the party. And I can tell you he's one of the best presidents that this country has produced.
Look at our history since Shagari left government in '83. At no time in the history of this country have we had such a decline in our nationalism as we've had since 1983 till date. Nigeria is now so conspicuously a nation of various ethnic nationalities. But under Shagari, this was not the case. We had the concept of a nation. And up until now, I can travel to any part of Nigeria, and if I find somebody who was an MPN with me, it is as if I have found family.
How did Shehu Shagari uphold the tenets of democracy as an executive president in line with the principle of checks and balances that got the Second Republic going?
The bulk of Dr. Alhaji Shehu Shagari's experience came from the parliamentary system of government. But surprisingly, he was able to adapt so fast to the presidential system of government and respected to the latter the doctrine of separation of powers between the two branches of government.
He was a listening president. I think that was demonstrated in the National Assembly, because he never at any time tried to induce us to take a stand on public issues against the wishes of the members of the National Assembly. He had never used any means whatsoever to obtain his wishes in the National Assembly without passing through the normal processes of law.
Every Monday of every week, we meet in Dodam Barracks in his residence at 8 o'clock to discuss issues. First of all, on the legislative side, we discuss the problems of the legislature regarding maybe bills that he wants to bring or budget also. Then we discuss the problem of the MPN, the political party. The chairman of the MPN were there. They will bring what problem they have, particularly in regards to matters that affect maybe conduct of primary elections and so on, and all the other problems they have about leadership in the MPN all over the country. Then we will come to the executive side, that is the presidency. Whatever problems the president is facing, maybe with his ministers or with the administration of the country, he brings the matter to the caucus and we discuss and arrive at a solution.
The most important achievement we recorded was that MPN had only 36% of the total membership of the two houses of the National Assembly, Senate and the House of Representatives. But we only lost one bill throughout the period of our dispensation.
And perhaps one attribute of Alhaji Shehu Shagari as president, which was the attraction of many, was his humility, an attraction blended with modesty, which complemented his overwhelming charisma with exuding aura. Shagari was one of those leaders, very few of them, who combine majesty with simplicity and still get by successfully, commanding respect due to the position of the number one man.
He is a gentleman endowed with candor. That is, there is no guile in him. He speaks the truth the way he sees it. And he has no pretenses, no chips on his shoulders, and is a Democrat and a true Nigerian.
In my personal life, Shagari was a tremendous influence. He invited my wife and I to lunch after our wedding. I wedded while I was in his government. And he took particular interests in our living happily. And he said something to my wife that I'll never forget. He said to her, "A woman's body is the husband's temple and is her pride. Do anything you like to John, but keep your body sacrosanct and holy and exclusively for him. And whatever he does to you, come to me. I'm your father. I will defend you." My wife has carried this injunction all her life, and she remembers it all the time. So he influenced my personal private life, and he implanted fidelity in my marriage.
He was the president, but I was the number one man. Because when I sit down, he will have to ask my excuse before he can talk at the party meeting. He's very loyal, extremely loyal, very devoted. All his interest is, how do we make Nigeria great?
First, political realism, Second, humility. Third, experience. So in dealing with us who worked with him in the government and in the party, it was not a master-servant relationship. It was, put it in the British doctrine of primus inter pares. He saw himself as first among equals, not as final boss, and this is what I say, this is what you want to do. He never did that. He was open to dialogue.
He respected me as a physician, as his doctor. We relate, we talk, we assess each other, so to speak. And whatever I said with a reason. President Shagari will heed to my advice.
Yet it was this down-to-earth, so to speak, humble nature of Alhaji Shehu Shagari as president, some critics saw a weakness in him. How was it really?
Some people say that he is a weak leader. If by being weak they mean that he listens and that he did not rule with iron hand, that I would agree. But in a democracy, you are not expected to rule with an iron hand. You are a politician, not a militician. You are a politician, not a militician. And a politician must subject himself to the rigors of democracy, to debate, and so on. You must listen to other people's views. You must take their advice. You must not dictate. If by so doing they think he is weak, then he is weak. But to me, that was his strength.
He's a tough man, you know. Small, if you say, in nature, but he's a very, very strong man. When he believes that a particular situation or a particular decision should be taken, he's very reliable. We have never been able to accuse him of anything anti-party.
You could regard him as too humble. But what is the art of life? The art of life is that of give and take.
But the Second Republic and the criticism of corruption against it, with Shagari at the helm.
Who were the arrowheads of that corruption? They talked about Akinloye. They talked about Umaru Diko. We all know Akinloye now. There is a saying in my native language that money is like thorns. There is no way you can hide it because it will protrude from your pockets. I mean, if Akinloye was as rich as he was portrayed, it would have been so obvious today. We know his lifestyle, we know his investments. Now, what about Umaru Diko? Umaru Diko has been back. And all the people who accused him have not come up with one evidence against him for corrupt enrichment. Well, we know now those who own the banks of Nigeria. It is easy to find from the Corporate Affairs Commission who are the directors of our banks, either directly or who their surrogates are.
He was a leader and not a ruler. And of course, what impressed me more was that he was an honest and incorruptible person. No wonder, after the coup, after he had been released from detention, he had practically nothing on him.
The most honest Nigerian I had the pleasure of working with was Shehu Usman Shagari. Shagari stood out as an individual. And when he left office, he has not quite reached about 2 years after leaving office. I went to his home village to find that the ceiling in his residence has fallen, he caved in, the generator has packed up in his house. This was the house of a former president of Nigeria.
I remember there was a day I came to Lagos and the ADC bought me a ticket from the presidency to go back to Kaduna. And he said, "Who told you can buy me a ticket? He's not a member of staff of the State House. Let him buy his own ticket."
He always tells us, because you are the son of the president, you are not the president. If it is anything, try to be one. Not to say because I'm son of the, no, try to be what you are. It may surprise you to know that none of us has attended any school abroad. We all schooled here in Nigeria where he was still president. His argument was, well, if I didn't believe in the system of my own country, then who else will believe in it? But later when we press on and on and on, he said, okay, you can always go abroad to study after your first degree. You do your first degree here, then you can go and read masters or whatever abroad. And that's the way it went. None of us, we all studied here in Nigeria. I was in ABU, I was in University of Sokoto, while my father was president.
After the first 4 years of the Second Republic, Shagari's first term in office, and got re-elected for his second term, and just 3 months into the second term, on December 31st, 1983, the Second Republic became terminated by a military coup. How did Shagari feel, and how did the Second Republic fall, in spite of the presence of the dynamic political actors of the period, the men of timber and caliber, as they were popularly referred to?
The military, as I said, always are in ambush waiting for a situation when they can strike and get a justification for it. If the military have a chance to take over, you will not be surprised whatever they do. In other cases, leaders got worse than detention. They made this a pretty sacrifice and their lives were taken for no just cause, and nothing happened.
At the end of his detention, Shagari returned home, once again to his farm, and continued in the educational development of his people, Western education and Islamic religious knowledge. To his noble profession, education, Shagari seems to be comfortable with it. To him, it has always been a success story. But farming, though he has been practicing it for quite some time now, seems to be a hard nut to crack in view of the vagaries of its practice and the realities of the times.
When I came back, I tried to put up my mind to it and put my time there, but I didn't have the capital to develop the farm. And one thing that I did not want was to take a bank loan. Maybe it could have helped, but I've always been afraid of bank loans. I don't know why, because I'm not a businessman. I try to make ends meet from what I have, but I don't want to go and borrowing to be subject to the bank's whims. And then if you take bank's loans, you have to put collateral, and then you're in the mercy of the bank. Whatever happens, they will dictate the tune. So I didn't want that. Maybe that's why I did not succeed very much.
But how is life in retirement as a former head of state?
In a way, the government has been taking care of us because it's paying us pension, all of us, and we were allowed a few staff, like a secretary, a cook steward, a driver, and they provide us with cars. I think each one of us has been given a car to ride and a car for his office. They have provided an office for us, each one of us. So, in a sense, I would say they've done a lot for us, but not as everyone, of course. Compared with my other colleagues, they are all military people. I'm the poorest among the former presidents. But I can't can't insist that I must be made as comfortable as they are. I don't mind it very much, and I thank God for what I am and what I have.
Today, Alhaji Shehu Usmanu Aliyu Shagari is 90 years old, a perfect example of an elder statesman with impeccable character, an embodiment of a veritable legacy for the good of the people and for positive development of the great country Nigeria.
And I remember that every week or every 2 weeks, the party had caucus meetings. And in most of those caucus meetings, the national chairman presided over the party caucus meetings. And that kept the party together. At a time when we didn't even have a majority in the National Assembly, we were able to manage it. He was a man who brought everybody together. And I never detected any fault in him. But as a human being, he must have his own faults. And after he had completed his 4th year, his first term, there was no question of opposition. Even though the party was made up of men of timber and caliber, nobody contested the second term primaries with him. It was a convention which was attended by party leaders.
He's always willing to forgive and forget and, to work for the good of this country. Well, I wish him more years of service to this country, to humanity generally.
How does it feel to last this long among the people and in the country he so dearly loved?
It's a feeling of gratitude to the Almighty Allah who has spared my life up to this moment. In fact, in my earlier days, I've been hoping that I would live to something over 60. That's all I was expecting, because the Prophet ﷺ and Shehu also died after the age of 60 something. So I wasn't expecting anything more. So it's with gratitude that I was spared all these more years, especially when I reached this age when I'm, fairly well. Of course, one cannot be at 80 and be completely well, but on average, I've been okay, and thank God for that. My experience as president is that, first of all, I was grateful to God for giving me that opportunity, which is a singular opportunity and rare opportunity to lead this country for a period of time. Again, this is another thing that I had never expected and I had never even hoped for. And I was also very grateful for the opportunity, because one really needs to be counted among those who have worked hard in the service of their country. And I can claim without any fear, but with all humility, that I have tried my best to fulfill those obligations during the time that I was there. Looking back, I thank God, and I'm satisfied with what I have done, especially when I saw what has been done after me, that most of them did not make anything better. However, I'm not condemning anyone. I know that everybody tried his best, but I can also claim that our own time was not so bad as others may wish to see it. Well, I always had very good hopes for our country. I know that it's not easy to build a nation. We are still building, and we have not completed the task of fabricating or constructing a truly united nation. Nigeria is a country which is very young, created out of a conglomeration of nations, each claiming their own identity. But the task of whoever leads Nigeria is to bring all these people together for them to think and work as citizens of one united country. And that is a great task. And I would not say that we have achieved that in the way in which we wanted it. But we continue to try, because Nigeria has a great potential, especially among African and other developing nations. It has got prospects of being great. And if we work hard to make it what it should be, a united, strong, and prosperous nation, which will be the envy of everyone, not only in Africa, but in most parts of the world.
And then to sort of see Abuja what it is today, the first credit really should be President Alhaji Shehu Shagari.
So on your 90th birthday, I want to be very grateful to you for allowing me to rise up to the rank of the general and to become the chief of army staff, subsequently a military president. I want to thank you.
Has always been my advisor, my mentor, and I want to thank you. Since our road paths crossed each other, up to today we are still in contact with President Shagari, not only in Council of State, but in a lot of things. President, happy birthday.
The only thing I want to do is just to say, congratulations, sir. Many happy returns of the day, and the Almighty God will continue to bless you.
So on behalf of our great country, Excellency, we say congratulations on the 90th birthday, and we pray that God will continue to give you the robust health to continue to serve us as a nation, continue to give advice and suggestions to younger people who are working at the state level and at the national level. A role model that all of us will emulate, a calm person who will always want society to grow and grow, and of course for people to live in peace.
Very happy to say that our successors have done so well that we are very, very proud of almost each and every one of them.
A quite successful man and a life well spent in his political career, Alhaji Shehu Shagari, the first executive president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, now lives a quiet and simple life in the serene atmosphere of Shagari. Though from time to time attends to some national and international callings, often goes to Sokoto for the Emirate Council engagements as the Turaki, and also attends to his farm regularly. That is the life of Shehu Usmanu. Like the original Shehu Ibn Fodio, Shagari is ever humble, religious, honorable, amiable, and still retains that charm and charisma that only Shehu Shagari has in control. With a life well spent, what does Alhaji Shehu Shagari, the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, want to be remembered for?
From my own name, which is given to me by my father, Shehu. And fortunately, you know what that means. Shehu Malam Malam. That is Shehu, teacher of teachers. That is derived from Shehu Usman Danfodio. Shehu was a very well-known teacher. And I always had wanted to emulate him as a teacher. I want to be known as a teacher, and I always behave as a teacher. Not only to my pupils, but to all the people who want to know something. I was always being happy to do what I can to help people to know more about whatever it is. So I want to be remembered as a teacher, not as a president.
Yes, the nation will continue to remember Alhaji Shehu Shagari as a teacher, a quite successful, noble and honorable one like the original Shehu bin Fodio. But Nigeria today and tomorrow will continue to cherish, love, admire and adore this right honorable gentleman as the first executive president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and a great leader in his own right. There has been a special tribute to Alhaji Shehu Usmanu Aliyu Shagari Turakin Sakwato, the first executive president of Nigeria, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, GCFR, on the occasion of his 90th birthday celebrations. The management and staff of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, wish the elder statesman many more healthy years ahead. Thank you for watching.
Under President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's administration, agriculture has been redefined as a business. Nigerians have food security. Food production increased by over 8 million metric tons. Food imports reduced drastically by over 40%. Decades of corruption in fertilizer and seed distribution stamped out. E-wallet system for farmers established. Increase in the number of farmers, including the youth. Increased grain storage capacity by over 300%. Increase in rice production, cocoa and palm farming. We are currently the world's largest producer of cassava with an output of over 45 million metric tons. Nigeria is becoming self-sufficient. Our agricultural economy is becoming sustainable. GEJ is working. Vote wisely. Vote GEJ. The Nigerian aviation sector has a new face. New aviation policies have been implemented for the first time in 12 years. 22 airports, both local and international, have been remodeled and renovated. 5 modern international terminals constructed in Lagos, Kano, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Enugu. Development of cargo airports with international facilities in regions with abundant food supply. Significant milestones attained for the first time by aviation parastatals. Improved safety for the Nigerian airspace. Nigeria is now a world player in aviation, ranking in revenue for growth of the economy. Passenger traffic is at more than 15 million. And ticket sales at 235 billion naira annually. GEJ is working. Vote wisely. Vote Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Since President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan assumed office in 2011, Nigerians have experienced the promotion and practice of true democracy, an enabling environment for diverse backgrounds and with divergent views has been accommodated. The country's electoral umpire, INEC, has been given a free hand to perform its statutory duties. Non-interference with electoral and judiciary matters. Liberalization of the press and guaranteeing the freedom of speech. President Jonathan is a true Democrat. Vote wisely. Vote GEJ. Job creation is a main agenda of the Goodluck Jonathan administration. since his inception in office, created 1.6 million new jobs under various programs, including the Community Service Scheme, CSS, Graduate Internship Scheme, GIS, Youth Enterprise with Innovation in Nigeria, You-Win, and the Subsidy Reinvestment and Empowerment Program, SURE-P, created 250,000 jobs in the agricultural sector, initiates the Community Works Program with all 36 states and the FCT benefiting.
GEJ is working. Vote wisely. Vote Goodluck Ebele Jonathan.
Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, PhD. An educated man knows the benefit of quality education to national growth. 12 new federal universities to improve access, Alhaji school system to reduce the menace of miscreants, innovative programs and policies to improve quality of education, all equals exponential growth in school enrollment at all levels. Funding of education has never been better. From 224 billion naira in 2007 to 634 billion naira in 2014. President Jonathan knows that education matters. That's why education transformation is work in progress. Don't stop the wheel. Vote wisely. Vote Jonathan. Vote PDP. 1.3 trillion naira per annum wasted on food importation before the Jonathan Agric transformation. From rustic farming to mechanized agriculture, from corruption-ridden fertilizer distribution to improved and timely access, from wanton wastage of food produce to innovative marketing reforms, commodity exchange and storage infrastructure. From food insufficiency, Nigeria is set to become a